Welcome to Ingrid's World. I am Ingrid Paris-Hicklin. On this show, you will get a chance to meet Dr. Reginald Mcrae, who is a licensed clinical psychologist. He has been providing outpatient mental health services in Northern Virginia since 2007. He performs a wide range of psychological assessments for children, adolescents, and adults. He coordinates with school and healthcare providers to provide a thorough psychological assessment. Dr. Mcrae is a veteran with more than 20 years of military experience. Also on this show, we will be introducing a new segment called Where Are They Now? We'll be checking in with Isis Wallace, former youth correspondent on Ingrid's World, who is now senior class president at Potomac High School. First, welcome Dr. Mcrae to the show. Welcome, Dr. Mcrae.
Thank you.
Well, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I spent 20 years in the Army doing Army stuff. Specifically, I was started off as an infantry officer, went into Special Forces, Civil Affairs, and once I retired from the Army, I started my doctoral program in clinical psychology with the intention to work with veterans who had post-traumatic stress disorder. I've subsequently done that. I specialize in a form of treatment called Emdr, which stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is a treatment that addresses not only post-traumatic stress disorder, but anxiety and depression. The goal of the treatment is fundamentally to help individuals work through experiences to change negative perceptions of oneself into more positive, adaptive perceptions of oneself, others, and the world, and cause an overall life change.
Wow. So that's like very important work that you're doing. Tell us about your practice.
I opened a private practice in Woodbridge, Virginia in 2017 after having worked for another private practice for 5 years. We do treatment of children, adolescents, and adults with varying disorders, not just post-traumatic stress disorder, but and we work with veterans and other individuals. We also do psychological evaluations, specifically for diagnostic clarification, for education to help individuals who are in school kind of figure out what's going on with them, to better help improve their performance, and so they can get the services they need. And we do psychological evaluations on adults to help diagnose and guide treatment, so that folks aren't misdiagnosed and receiving wrong medications.
Wow, very important work that you're doing. So the role of a licensed clinical psychologist, what's the role? Because for our viewers who are out there, and this might be something very new that they're listening to, what is your role?
Well, as a licensed clinical psychologist, we have a lot of roles. Some of it's education, some of it is psychotherapy and treatment, oftentimes using cognitive behavioral therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, different modes of therapy, as well as psychological assessments. We also do consultations with individuals and organizations to kind of help improve their performance and teamwork. So there's a wide variety of things that licensed clinical psychologists do.
Yeah, I love how you really are just painting the picture that it's lots of different roles. So it's not one little box, but it's several roles that you play. So I have to ask you about this, is that how can I manage my level of stress? Particularly, you know, for me, I'm looking at, I'm just inundated by negative information, the news, social media. Used to be I could take a break and maybe look at something on social media, and that's just gone. So how can I manage that, my stress?
My first recommendation would be, in its simplest form, do something. And when I say do something, become active. Find things that are both of interest to you and that help you feel more competent and confident about yourself, and do those things. Connect with other people. We don't live in a bubble. I hate to use animal references, but people are fundamentally social animals. And when we isolate ourselves, because Facebook and all these things don't actually help us connect to other people, they help us disconnect because we're not interacting. We're only presenting the self we want people to see. So if I go out and eat in a restaurant and I take pictures of my food, I'm not eating my food. I'm displaying my food.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not connecting with anybody. I'm just showing off food. So connect, interact with people on a real level. I mean, as annoying as Zoom can be, living as isolated as we are, Zoom is more connecting than, you know, Facebook. Pick up the phone and talk to somebody. Get out, you know, be responsible, socially distant, but interact with people. That kind of helps alleviate some of the stress. Get away from the noise.
Wow.
You know, all the news isn't good. I would even say some of it's bad. It's easy to get wrapped up in all the negative, but focus on positive things you can do and do positive things. And that will help alleviate some of the stress. Exercise, interact with people. And when I say exercise, I don't mean go out and try to lift a car. Go for a walk. You know, do what you can do. Don't go out and try to compare yourself to other people. If you're not a runner, don't try to run a marathon. If, you know, if you can walk, walk. If you have a wheelchair and you go out and roll in your wheelchair or do whatever, do what you can do. You know, don't limit yourself to the ideas that you limit yourself to. You create your own limits.
Oh my goodness.
So if you want to do something, do it. As long as it's legal, moral, and ethical.
I love how your approach. And you know what? It just makes sense what you're saying, because we do, my husband and I, we do a family Zoom every Sunday. And for some reason, it's only for half an hour. We connect with our kids and family and friends for half an hour. And after the call, we feel uplifted. And I can't quite figure out what's going on, but that little Zoom thing has helped. And I did not realize that until you said it. So, okay, yay for Zoom, okay? So
we also have telephones. They still
they
work.
have telephones.
They're not just for texting.
Exactly. So the pandemic has taken a toll on us. You know, and again, I personalize that because it's taken a toll on me. I used to be flying from one part of the country to the other, you know, did lots of different things. Now that has come to a screeching halt. And so I have to ask you this question. For those who are out there and who used to jump into Washington and going to museum or what have you, or dinner, how do we rise above it? Because it's now a new normal. How do I rise above this?
I have this conversation with people all the time. Over the past year, we've taught people to be afraid. Fear is not going to help you. being cautious, being reasonable, being responsible will help you. So, plan. If you want to go out, do things, wear a mask, but, plan what you want to do. You don't have to live in isolation and fear. You can get out. Follow the science. I'm not a epidemiologist. I don't tell people what to do. I just say, if you have medical concerns, talk to your doctor. But socially distance, wear a mask, wash your hands, do what you need to do to be safe. But that shouldn't stop you from getting out and doing things you want to do. I'm not recommending you go stand in the middle of a crowd, but if you want to go to a museum, museums tend to be rather large places and nobody wants to be there. So
I beg your pardon.
Not gonna have a crowd.
So, and I have to say, I love that you are just so frank and honest about this, and saying, it's the fear, and you're quite right. It's the fear, and you're like, I don't want to catch this. And so, but you're saying, do it responsibly, follow the science, and wear a mask.
Yeah, be cautious.
Be cautious.
Don't let fear rule your life. Fear causes you to isolate.
Okay.
And the more isolated you become, the harder your life gets.
Oh my goodness. So what do I do with people? And I personalize this, that I deal with people who are just negative. I'll say it's a beautiful day, and I'm like, well, really, not really, because it's going to rain any minute. So how do you deal with that?
I learned in the Army there are two types of people. And one type of person always looks at the problem. They want to dissect the problem. They want to beat the problem to death. The other person looks at the solution. Okay, it's raining. Identify the problem. Put on a raincoat. Use an umbrella. There's a solution. Don't let the problem stop you. Focus on what you can do, not what you can't do. There are a lot of limitations, but you set most of them.
Wow, what wise words. Oh my goodness. So how can I stay optimistic? Because, you said walking is great, interacting with people. I like to stay positive. How can I do that?
And that's why I say focus on what you can do.
Okay.
Not what you can't do. There are a billion things you can't do. Why worry about it? There are many things you can do to make your life better. There are many things you control. You manage the things you can control and, mitigate the things you can't.
Wow. As you see, I'm taking copious notes, because that is really very important to really to think about what I can do, what I can do to make my life better. So how can I also help my family and friends in promoting mental wellness? Because I feel as if that's another part.
And I would say this, I don't make a differentiation between physical wellness and mental wellness.
Ah.
If you broke your leg, would you stand there and go, I'm gonna look bad if I go to hospital? No, you're gonna go to hospital and get a cast.
That's true.
If something happens to you physically, you're gonna do something about it. Right. What's the difference? Your brain, your mind is part of who you are. If you don't deal with it, it deals with you. So it's not necessarily about there's this major difference between the physical and the mental. They're all you. So if you got a broken leg, if you break your finger, if you get a cold, whatever physical thing you do, you're going to do something about it. The problem is, if you don't do something about the mental, in many ways, it intensifies physical problems. So deal with it.
Deal with it. So you're dispelling the myth regarding seeking a therapist, and I really love it. But now, how do I start? What's step one? How do I find a therapist?
Well, there are a lot of ways. if you have insurance, go to your insurance company and see who takes your insurance. There's this site called Psychology Today that you can put your zip code in and it'll list many therapists in your area. And you can kind of narrow down your focus to what you want to do, what type of therapy, what you see your problem as. There's this wonderful little thing called the internet, and you could just Google, type in a therapist, and you'll find a list of them. They'll give you different sites depending on what you want to do. The Virginia, Virginia Clinical Psychological Association has a list of therapists statewide. There are many ways to find a therapist. Ask a friend. You'll be amazed at who's gone to see somebody and they may have seen somebody who didn't fit well for them, or they fit very well, and they'll recommend you to somebody. So there are a lot of ways to seek and find a therapist. And you'd be amazed at the number of people who've actually been to therapy, but just don't say anything about it.
Right. And you know what? And that, which makes sense, because every time I see my doctor, I'm not discussing it with my friends to say, oh, you know, I went to see about that. That really just makes sense. So you have really dispelled lots of myths. Any advice that you want to pass on to the public who's out here watching you and dealing with issues? Any advice you'd like to pass on?
This is what I would say. Seeing a therapist doesn't make you crazy. Not seeing one can. If you think about it like this, sometimes you're standing hip deep in a pit of alligators, and there's a branch like 2 feet in front of your face, but you can't see the branch because you're focused on the alligators. The therapist can help you see the branch so you can pull yourself out. It's not about being crazy. It's not about being weak or strong, because that's about lifting heavy objects. It's about getting somebody who can help you see things from a different perspective and ask and answer the questions you need that will help you move forward.
Wow. Dr. Mcrae, I just cannot thank you enough for your honest, frank, wonderful discussion and sharing your perspective. I think I know that you've helped a lot of people, and certainly it has helped me, because I got lots of notes here. And which is really the truth. We needed that kind of discussion. So thank you for being on Ingrid's World.
No problem.
All right, coming up next, we'll be talking with Isis Wallace in a segment called Where Are They Now? And she has a lot to tell us about what she's been doing since leaving Ingrid's World as the Youth Correspondent. Well, welcome to the show, Isis Wallace.
Hello, I'm happy to be here.
Senior class president, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Captain of the cheerleading squad, congratulations.
Thank you again.
Member of the Honor Society, hello, congratulations. Wow, you have been one busy person.
Yes, I have.
So you were a youth reporter on Ingrid's World. How did that help you in high school? Did it help you in high school?
Yes, it helps me in many ways, especially with my public speaking. I'm in a leadership class currently right now, so it helps me it helped me before since I already had the experience doing public speaking or just live appearances.
So we're showing pictures of you when you first appeared on Ingrid's World with a wonderful sailor suit, and you were talking about what you're doing. You were on Ingrid's World several times. You were actually a regular, so it was just so exciting. So it did help you. Good to know. Well, what are the next steps for Isis Wallace?
My next step is to go to college and major in computer science. Hopefully, I'll find a program where I can get my master's in 5 years and my bachelor's. But that's the plan, to go into cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. What motivated you to get into cybersecurity?
There's not a lot of people like me in that field. And when we were like trying to decide what career fields we liked, that always stuck with me. I just love technology. I love how it's always changing and growing.
Wow, that's like amazing. So your cybersecurity, you're interested in that. You're thinking about, so your career plans, are you thinking about a location that you want to wind up? What's your location that you want to?
So I have like 3 steps with my career plan. So I want to start off in cybersecurity and cybercrime. So like work somewhere like Richmond and work in like the crime center and stuff. And once I get tired of looking at all the crime stuff, I'll go into something more light when I want to start my life and do like IT help at like colleges and stuff. And then when it's time to retire, I'll go back to school and go do zoology because I've always wanted to work in an aquarium because I love nature.
Wow. I think you, and you know what? Knowing you, Isis, you can do it all. So you're going to, without question, you will do it all. You know, Isis, you have many plans. What has made you successful? What has been the key to your success?
Not being afraid to speak out on what I feel is right or what I want to do. Just like taking initiative for what I want to do. Just like with cheer, that's how I became a captain, by being assertive. And I wouldn't be in all the programs I am now without opening my mouth.
So I have now, can you clarify, is this a rumor, is this true? I was told that you learned how to cheerlead by studying it on the internet.
Yes, I learned all of my cheerleading skills self-taught, and anything else I learned was in cheer.
Oh my goodness, that's incredible. So, wow, so that's a lot of determination. So, so you're not you don't allow people to limit you.
No, not at all.
So someone is out there watching the show, and they're watching you, Isis, and they're like, you know what advice do you have to people out there about supporting an Isis Wallace so they can have an Isis Wallace in their family too?
Just support their dreams. Just don't be judgmental of what they think, and always just be open to change.
Wow, don't be judgmental.
They know what they're doing in there. It might not make sense at the time, but it will later.
Oh my goodness. So we kind of so as adults, we need to kind of like pause and kind of like not be all over it.
Yes, because if you're raising someone like me, they most likely have a plan of how they want things to go.
Oh, I like that. They already have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
I can also, you know, it's just a pleasure. So that has made you successful. People in your life, who is in your life that has kind of like helped you get to where you are now?
Really my mom, my grandmother, and my sister. They've all been just like beautiful female figures in my life that made me realize that I can do as much as I want to.
Oh my goodness. So they're the ones who are saying, okay, you can do it, move forward from that standpoint.
And also my beautiful friends. My friends have always been my support system.
So that's really, really nice, I tell you. Well, we had to have you come back on the show and talk about your wonderful things that you were doing. We're very proud of you. And I hope our viewers, we showed pictures, I hope didn't embarrass you, as when you were a little girl on the show. And we showed pictures of you being a cheerleader, and of course, your graduation picture. So congratulations, Isis Wallace.
Thank you.
And thank you for being on Ingrid's World.
Thank you for inviting me back.
Okay, bye.
Bye, it was a pleasure.
Well, this was just exciting having Isis Wallace being on the show and providing a wonderful update. I'd like to thank Dr. Mcrae and Isis Wallace for being on the show. Totally grateful for them. We had an opportunity to talk about mental health, and then we switched it, and then we talked to one of our correspondents who was here on Ingrid's World to talk about what they are doing with their life, and it just gives you such inspiration. I had to thank you, the viewers, for being and supporting. I'm grateful for your support, and I invite you to connect with me on Facebook at Ingrid's World and follow the show in Ingrid's World VA in Twitter and Instagram. And if you miss an episode, you can catch the show on Ingrid's World LLC YouTube channel or ingridsworld.org. Thanks for watching.